Hello, my name is Candace Romero, and it has been my absolute privilege and honor to be teaching people about doTERRA's essential oils for the last 9 years and helping people live their most vibrant life. If you'd like to learn more about my natural solutions, please feel free to contact me on Facebook at Bay Area Terra Tribe Essential Oils and Natural Solutions, or check out my website, my.doterra.com/Romero. That's my.doterra.com/ROMERO. Thank you.
You're listening to the E.I.T.H.R podcast with your host, D.Cal. You're listening to the E.I.T.H.R podcast with D.Cal.
Good evening, everybody. Happy Friday to y'all. Happy Mother's Day to the women out there in the country listening. Come Sunday, Sunday's going to be your day. This is your boy D-Cal, host of the E.I.T.H.R podcast, brought to you here from the GNS Entertainment Studios in Sacramento, California. Want to go ahead and give a shout out to my sponsor, the talented and ever so clever Candace Romero at my.doterra.com/Romero. Go ahead and check out that website. If you see her ever in public, she got some really good stuff. So make sure you take care of that. Also want to give a shout out to Mile Clothing Line, another one of the sponsors that we have for the podcast, which is very exciting. Starting to pick up episode number 5. It's going on live right now. So most t-shirts are simply cool to look at and or look in. Well, so are ours. But ours also aim to send a message. They aim to put a name on the obstacles that once stood in your way and aren't there anymore. Struggles that you have turned into successes and crushed. You make it look easy. That is a daily inspiration, daily message that they have on the clothing line. So, mile.today. MILE.TODAY. So before we get started with the podcast and some of the things we talk about, I make it a clear effort to start opening the podcast with like a daily instruction for people to do to hopefully help encourage your life. So for all of those out there this Friday night who had a very productive week, congratulations. And for those who didn't have so productive or as productive as you wanted to week, you made it. Okay, so you can start again next Monday. So good thing for that. But here's some advice you can go ahead and do. I know at the workplace there's sometimes you have those coworkers that you just don't see eye to eye with. Hell, it might be people that's in your circle, in your family. Maybe people that's in your own household, spouses, children, in-laws. One thing I feel that this country is lacking is empathy, is understanding of what another person might be possibly going through, his or her shoes or boots. I know the Roe versus Wade situation is a hot button for a lot of people. And mainly the folks who don't understand that position are those who never had to walk a day in a woman's pump heels or slippers. So my suggestion for everybody is when you get the chance and opportunity, take a time, take a minute. Think about what it's like to walk in that person's shoes. Just sit there for a quick second and just zone out. Imagine being that person in particular or someone like that person and walk in his or her shoes. And ask yourself, what would you do? See, I feel in our country, in our society, in our world today, we spend a lot of time focusing more on the what people are doing. We focus more on the what people are saying in response, but we're not focusing enough on the why. And I feel that, and I said this a little bit before, and I think it was podcast episode 1 or 2. I feel like if we actually sit back and focus more on the why than the what, we will have a clearer understanding of what people and why people do the things that they do. So when you get a chance, reflect on some of the things and just try to put yourself in that person's situation to have a better understanding of why they do what they do, say what they say, act the way they act, because you might come to find out, once you understand the why of what they're doing things, they become a lot more tolerable. And I think for me, personally, I take this approach heavily because there has been a lot of realization looking back on my mother when she was alive. And I realized this a couple of nights ago, a little bit more in detail, that I personally make it a point to understand why people do what people do. Because the first 25 years of my life, I never understood why my mother did what my mother did, why my father did what my father did. It wasn't until my mother passed 5 years after that I was able to, oh, this is what it was. And when you start asking why, you go deeper into it. And it's kind of more of a psychological and more of an emotional trip. But then you have such a deeper understanding of why people tick or what makes them tick. And the conversations you can have with that person are a little bit on another level because you're relating to them. And they start to feel more comfortable because legitimately you are opening up, or they're opening up to you because you're giving them a platform to relate, and you're showing them that you actually give a damn about what it is that's bothering them or getting to them. So just a little assignment maybe you guys can check out for the next week. Whoever it is that you hate or you don't really understand, put yourself in a situation, come up with different scenarios and situations where they may have flashed on you, and see the world through their eyes, and you might be able to understand a little bit better. I don't know if anyone noticed what it was today that President Biden had said about back in the day when they had real segregationists. At least, with all the segregation and everything that people had, at least people were able to understand, be able to have lunch with one another. It was kind of random. It didn't fit, but then, I'm like, Sleepy Joe, your politics they don't cease to amaze me, man. Like, that's kind of a random thing to say. It's like, back when we had people who wanted to divide the country, at least we can still have lunch with them. Sometimes I wish politicians would honestly just tell the truth, stand in front of a camera, grab a microphone, and say that, and just tell the nation the whole truth, and to be like, I don't know shit about fuck. And just, there you go. That way we all know exactly where you're coming from. And, but I get what he's trying to say, maybe, where even when we didn't get along with one another, we can still have conversations, suitable conversation, and not try to necessarily cut each other's throats publicly. Because even though you are on different sides, you still want to kind of show a little bit of unity, maybe, possibly. I don't know. But honestly, when I first heard that video, I kind of just facepalmed myself, and I was like, oh my God! I couldn't believe that man really said that. But, I'm sure there's a different meaning behind what he said. And, there's a lot of people out there, when their president says something, they're quick to justify it. But this was one of those, like, I get it. I get it. We're gonna leave that alone. That's for another podcast. That's for a different day. So, moving on from that. Anyway, some things I want to talk about that were on my mind today are things like on the Twitter account, you guys can follow us, and same things at Instagram. It's the @E.I.TH.R at TheEITHR. Any conversations, any comments, any replies, anything we had on the podcast, or any suggestions you want to talk about, you're more than welcome to send us a tweet, leave us a comment on one of the posts on the Instagram, and we'll go ahead and give you a shout out, and we'll go ahead and address it, in the podcast form, discuss it for a little bit, so on and so forth. Moving forward, in the next couple of weeks, we will be streaming with interviews, so that way there will be people on the podcast talking. I'm still kind of setting everything up to where everything is going to run a little bit more like not necessarily like a news forum, but at least where you'll be able to see things, not just from your phone, from your tablet, or from your tablet, laptop, but also from a television. So I'm trying to set everything up. So right now, you're just going to hear me speaking. Hopefully that doesn't bother too many people. But I know there's a lot of people kind of do video blogging and vlogging and stuff like that. So I figured, hey, what the hell? If people can tolerate some of the people doing that, then they probably don't mind hearing me for 10 to 15 minutes, possibly a week or whatever. So one of the things I want to consider in discussing tonight on the podcast is, what is it about writing our goals and plans that makes people hesitant? And this is kind of something that's been on my mind for the past 10 plus years, because a lot of folks don't realize the 1% of people who make 99% of the profits, income, money in this country, a lot of their goals, they write them down. And if you hear any inspirational, motivational speaker, or any celebrity or athlete, entertainer, any successful investor, they'll tell you these things. And a lot of folks treat it like hearsay. They don't really pay too much attention to it, or they rely on their memory. And an old saying goes, the faintest memory lasts longer than the ink, or something of that nature, or that's backwards. The faintest ink lasts longer than the strongest memory. Where even just writing it down, it's a constant reminder. But if you try to remember it, sometimes what's going on in your life just kind of throws it off, and you really don't know what it was. And by the time you do remember it, it's too late. The season has passed. You're not in the mood to do it anymore. Whatever the case may possibly be. So write down your goals. Personally, for me, I think a lot of us do not write down our goals simply because of accountability. I feel too many of us have a lot of goals that we want to obtain, and we don't necessarily feel or think or believe we have the time to achieve them. So, and it's constant reminders in your face about what did I need to do? And if it doesn't get done, it's almost discouraging. And I feel it's something that we need to learn to prioritize. Listen, if you can prioritize something for someone else before yourself, you can definitely give yourself at least 1 hour a day to prioritize something for you. Whether that's going to bed 30 minutes earlier, waking up, or going to bed 30 minutes later, waking up 30 minutes earlier. It all adds up. Little steps. It's the small steps that climb the mountaintop. So if you can just write it down. And some people have so much going on, like I was saying, that it can kind of get jumbled up. So here's what you can do, and this has worked for me. You take a piece of paper and you make 3 columns, and you categorize it. A, B, C. Really simple. A, those are the things that need to get done as of yesterday, 5 o'clock, and it has to be done before the boss gets home. get done today, but if they don't get done today, they can get done tomorrow. So they're priority, but they're not high priority. C, these are things that can get done throughout the day of me doing A or throughout me doing B. Okay? And I can almost guarantee you 90% of the list that you create, 2 to 3 things are going to be A. That's it. Out of your whole list, 2, maybe 3 are going to be A worthy. You might have 3, 4, possibly 5 that are B worthy. Everything else is going to fall under C. I remember doing this exercise with somebody, and come to find out, a lot of the to-do list for them were C category things. But by having the urgency that they all needed to be done, they were able to move around frantic and give the appearance that they're always constantly busy. But this person was also the kind of person that didn't like free time. They didn't like sitting down and wasting the day. So for them, that feeling of being overwhelmed was a good feeling for whatever reason. But so they didn't like doing the list. Me, give me the list so that way, if something comes up, I don't have to worry about this over here getting neglected, something over here not getting the attention, or me forgetting to do something that actually was important but got sidetracked with something that was in the C column that I thought should have been an A. So by having that plan, your day, you'll find out mentally, psychologically, emotionally, hell, even physically, you won't be as stressed out as you think you are, because now you have clarity for what you need to do today. So again, I think a lot of people don't do lists because of accountability. They don't want to face the fact that they really aren't as busy as they want people to believe, and they don't want the spare time going to some place or some people, or they just don't want to be organized, and that's just something that's part of them. But what do you think? What is it that's preventing you from creating a list or writing a list or prioritizing your day to make your life that much easier? You know, just food for thought. Another thing we talked about is, if social media didn't exist, what would you do to pass your time by? Me personally, I think a lot, just like growing up, a lot of physical stuff would be done. You know, when it comes to sports, sporting events, you know, spending more time at work. I think, I feel, think, and believe that if social media wasn't as big as it is now, like growing up in the 90s was still something, like right now, you will have a lot more people outside physically at parks, basketball hoops, in the street, in front of houses, at apartment complexes, playing with the kid. I think consoles, if you guys remember Nintendo, Sega Genesis, I think you'll have a lot more interaction with people playing. Gaming would probably still be a big deal. It would just be how it was growing up, where gaming was big in the neighborhood versus big across the globe. But if social media wasn't here, you still have a lot of people who would know how to do handwriting. You would have a lot of people who understood how to do socializing. Definitely. Socializing would be a big thing that would still be continuing on. You wouldn't have that many people as antisocial, because physical socializing would be a thing. Pool halls was a thing. Bowling alleys were a thing. So I think a lot of these activities that we had growing up would still physically be around, because nothing would be digitized to keep us isolated in our rooms or in our houses. So I feel that would be something. What about you guys? What do you feel life would be if social media, didn't necessarily exist. How would you pass your time? Would you pick up a craft? Would you get an extra job? Would you read more books? Would you kind of inspire your creative mindset? Would you broaden your third eye? Like, what exactly would you guys feel you can do, or would do, if that wasn't an option? Music. Has music actually changed, or is it still the same / related to its time? And this question is really, really tricky, because a lot of people compare, as time moves forward, music gets a little more graphic. Music gets a little bit more absurd, obscene. Music loses touch with how to speak to people. It doesn't become enjoyable as much as it once was. To a degree, when people make this argument, I kind of see their perspective, until one day you listen to the lyrics of an actual song from the 60s or the 70s, even the 80s. They actually talk about the same shit. The difference is how it was presented. Profanity in music didn't really hit mainstream until, 70s rock and roll. But then it became this wildfire naturally in the mid 80s, when parental advisory stickers was placed on music with artists like E.I.T.H.R, NWA, and things like that. But when it came to like the lyrics themselves, they actually are speaking the same thing. Go back and listen to a song like As We Lay. God, I want to say, is that Shirley Murdoch? Or it might have been Denise. Wait, one of the two ladies. I want to say Shirley Murdoch. As We Lay. I could get it completely wrong. I'm kind of just going off memory. But that song was about her sleeping with a married man. And they both had to go home, regrettably, to his wife, and I believe she had a lover, right? A lot of people make a big deal about rap music and, the glorification of drugs and all this other fun stuff. But a friend of mine put me up on Eric Clapton had a song. And I didn't hear the song for myself until literally yesterday. And the song is called Cocaine. Guess what that song's about? Yeah. It's crazy, right? So it's like, if you actually pay attention, a lot of the music from back in the day says the exact same shit the music today says. The difference is the delivery is different. That's it. Outside of that, if you really, 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 really pay attention to it, it's just how it's delivered. Kind of wild when you really pay attention to that, like, and kind of catch that part. But listen to some of the old songs, turn up the lyrics, go along with them. And a lot of rock music, like Bohemian Rhapsody, that song. Listen to the words of that song, and then tell me how is that different than anything you may have heard in the late 80s, early 90s. The difference is the delivery, the difference is the voice, the difference is the genre of music. But it's all the same. It all depends on who's singing, who's playing the instrument, is where it comes from. Kind of weird. So another topic, you guys are more than welcome to hit up on Instagram at the E.I.T.H.R, TheEITHR, or on Twitter at TheEITHR. When it comes to the GOAT, the acronym, GOAT, greatest of all time. It was Richard Sherman, who actually made a very good point. And we should change it from the GOAT to the GOAT, meaning it should go from GOAT to GOTE, which is greatest of this era. Because to be the greatest of all time, you have to have been the greatest of all time. The number one person people rank for greatest of all time in the NBA, for example, is going to be Michael Jordan. To me, Jordan's not the greatest of all time. He's not. He's probably the greatest shooting guard, but he's not the greatest basketball player because you have to be able to play all 5 positions to do that. Jordan played one position. Then you got to ask yourself, what is the criteria that you use to judge someone on being the greatest on anything? Like, is Jordan, do you base it on championships? Because if you base it on championships, Jordan only has 6. We always leave off Bill Russell. Oakland, California, stand up. Bill Russell has 11 as a player. But people don't know much about Bill Russell because he was during a time before Jordan. I think Jordan was glorified at the time because he was a marketable player during that time where they needed a marketable player for the NBA. And no one was doing anything quite like Jordan was doing it. So I'm not saying he is not the greatest shooting guard of all time, because you can make that argument. But for the greatest basketball player, it's a team game. It's a team game. So, then you got to ask yourself too, when it comes to the GOAT, are you the kind of person that goes off, do you make your teammates better? Name one person that was on a Michael Jordan team that went to a different team and made that team better. See, Tiki Barber, with one of his sports talk radio shows that I listened to when he was on national sports talk, he says Tom Brady's the kind of person that's going to win you a lot of championships, but Peyton Manning is the kind of quarterback that would actually make you a better player. And depending on how you look at greatness, that's huge, because to me, championships don't always tell all the story, because there's plenty of people who ride the bench who get championship rings. Does that mean they were great, or does that mean they were just there for the ride? Because you can always lift off somebody's coattails, but to me, a greatest of all time that's just something cool to talk about around the water cooler. Because again, if you're talking about championships, Jordan is second. Bill Russell's number 1. And if you're talking about scoring, well then Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is number 1. And if we say that the Buffalo Bills NFL football team is one of the greatest teams to ever never win it, because they went to 4 straight Super Bowls, well then you got to put LeBron James in that category, because that man has been to 10 finals and won 4 of them. Yes, he's lost 6, but he's won 4. And the game is a little bit different than it was growing up. It's not as physical. It's way more money, and players see themselves as a brand versus dedicated to the craft of sports, which is all they have. So it's a very tricky conversation that I feel that more people, at least in my mind, need to address when it comes to the greatest of all time. There's a never-ending discussion. So it's when people say, who's your top 5, rapper of all time? If my top 5 don't match your top 5, that makes me wrong. It's basically all subjective. So, try not to get into these conversations with people. Again, I ask the question, like, what do you base yours on? Now that I know the criteria that you base your greatest of all time on, now we can have the discussion. Because now we're going to do apples with apples versus apples and automobiles. It's just one of those things for me that makes a huge difference when talking to somebody. So, that's pretty much it. Listen, gotta say thank you again to Candace for being my very first sponsor and supporting the podcast. I really do appreciate. Candace is upperclassmen, went to high school together out there in the Bay Area, Castro Valley High School. And, told her I wanted to kind of see a sister win a little bit, small business owner, support a small business owner. And so I just want to say thank you very much for the love and for helping me out with that. And even though we're not major just yet, it takes any vehicle its most gas to get moving within the first few gears. So once everything starts pushing, I think it'll be a better shape. But I just want to go ahead and give a shout out to her. Anybody who is interested in becoming a sponsor for the podcast, you're more than welcome to reach out to us on Instagram, just send us a DM, or on Twitter, again, at E.I.T.H.R, the E.I.T.H.R, which again stands for the elephant in the room. And before I go, I want to address this because this is really, really super annoying. It's with the COVID thing. So I heard a commercial today talk about how nurses were the heroes of the industry, and they were like in first responders and all this other cool shit, which is okay, fine, great, whatever. But I personally feel this. If a nurse, first responder, law enforcement officer, anyone who had to deal with the medical field, if we feel that they deserve recognition and credit for everything they've done, why don't you give them a proper pay increase? And this goes for teachers as well, because there's no way you can expect someone to fucking teach the youth in the future with super meaty gummies in classrooms who have attention disorders, can't pay attention to shit, talk back, and teachers have their hands tied and they're restricted. So anyway, just want to give a shout out to everybody. Love y'all. Peace. Hope to hear from y'all soon. Enjoy your weekend. Happy Mother's Day. All right. Good. Out.
Hello, my name is Candace Romero, and it has been my absolute privilege and honor to be teaching people about doTERRA's essential oils for the last 9 years and helping people live their most vibrant life. If you'd like to learn more about my natural solutions, please feel free to contact me on Facebook at Bay Area Terra Tribe Essential Oils and Natural Solutions, or check out my website, my.doterra.com/Romero. That's my.doterra.com/ROMERO. Thank you.
Hey folks, need a little daily inspiration? Here you go. Crush all the struggles and pressures that get in your way, big or small, minor or major. We all are fighting demons others do not know about, but it's how you handle that makes it look easy. Make It Look Easy apparel. Get your hat, shirt, sweatpants today. Mile.today. MILE.TODAY. Make it look easy.